So I'm bringing on today one of my favorite gurus of gurus, Vicki Hamilton Wright, because, you know, anytime I got a question for Vicki, she's got the answer for it. So Vicki, this is a scenario. We've had that meeting. I blew up. I lost my temper. I started getting defensive about everything that person said. I felt like they were all out to get me. Where do I go from here? Vicki, so how do I get out of that conversation without going completely nuclear and blowing up the whole thing?
Well, first of all, Ty, thanks for having me. And let me say this. We all, as humans, have bad days.
Mm-hmm.
We all are going to have a bad day. And when you're in a meeting and you're in the midst of the moment, you don't always recognize how you're coming off in the first place.
Yeah.
Right? So the thing is that people are perceiving your behaviors. People are watching your behaviors, and they're internalizing, oh my God, that's just not like him, or that's not like her. And so they know that it's an off moment. So I want you to understand, people do know that it's an off moment. The second thing is that when you're in those conversations in the heat of the moment and it's happening, the sooner you can bring it to a close, the better. So when you start recognizing and feeling the emotions and the steam going up, is to back up and really collect yourself and not say anymore. Because once you don't say anymore and collect yourself, you can then be quiet, recognizing, okay, this is not what I want to do. This is not where I wanted it to go in this conversation. I'm really upset. I'm angry. And rather than say something you're really going to regret, just be quiet. Now, you walk outside of the room and you know your brand has been tarnished because you just weren't yourself in the room.
Right.
The best thing you can do is acknowledge it. So if I am in the room and my boss is in the room, when I walk out, I would give time to walk out the meeting, go back to my office, collect myself. And then I would approach him and say, look, that was not me. And first I want to apologize. It was not me. Here are the things that are bothering me, or here's what the situation was. Here's why I'm feeling that way. I did not mean to sound this way, to act this way, to do these things. Call the elephant out in the room. Acknowledge where you were, because people like authenticity. They like honesty. They like for you to be straightforward, to be open, to be vulnerable. And it takes a lot of courage to do that. Now, I will tell you from personal experience, I had one of these days happen. I had a bad day at work. A lot of things were going on. When I say it was like a Black Friday, it was Black Friday from the beginning to the end. And I got in this meeting, and what they wanted to do, I totally disagreed with. And rather than being calm and coming out with facts like I normally do, I just lost it. I lost it in the meeting. And I recognized, after looking at some of the faces, people were looking at me like, what's wrong with her? What I had done. So I didn't say anymore. I let the conversation go on. After the meeting, I not only went to my boss who was in that meeting, I said, look, I got to apologize. I am so sorry. I did not mean to respond that way. I know that I've had a bad day. A lot of things have gone wrong. I took it out on the wrong people. Although I believe what I was saying is correct in terms of what the outcome should be, the way in which I said it was not professional. And I want to acknowledge that. And I just want to apologize. And the person said to me, first of all, I appreciate you apologizing and recognizing it. And secondly, it takes courage to be able to do that. I took it one step further, and I went back and emailed everybody in that room off of the invite. And I said, I want to take a moment to say, yes, I was human today. I lost it. And that was not professional. That is not the way I want to be. And I want to humbly apologize to all of you for the way in which I was communicating my message. I do believe that this is the way things should go. but I want to apologize for my behavior because that's not who I am. And I hope all of you know that's not who I am as a person. I appreciate the grace and look forward to in the future controlling my emotions and behaviors a little bit better. Thanks, Vicki. Can I tell you how many emails I got back? Every one of them. We all have a bad day. We understand. Oh. Thank you for apologizing. Thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for your courage. Really appreciate you acknowledging this. It was fine. But if I had let that moment go and didn't acknowledge it, I allowed things to fester. When we let things fester, we let perceptions grow.
Yeah. Yeah. And I one thing I heard you say in here, instead of defending the castle, of defending your point of view or the opinion or the product, whatever it may be, and really rallying around defending yourself, you took it from a different approach and really, how do I mend the relationship? And that vulnerability in doing that is difficult. That is extremely difficult. There's a lot of validity to what you're saying there with allowing it to fester. Mm-hmm. You know, if anything that has a gap, that we don't fill that gap with something positive, fear and distrust are going to be placed in that automatically, because I think that's everyone's default. Right. So I love the intentionality of really seeking that mending it, regardless. It sounds like it didn't matter who was right.
Well, you know, the thing that was interesting about it was, if I didn't move away from my belief and my opinion,
okay,
what I attacked was my behavior.
That's a great distinction. Yes.
And that's what's important. And that's why in the email I said, although I believe in A, B, C, and D, I don't like the way in which I delivered A, B, and C. So it was my behavior that I was saying was wrong, not my point of view. And I think that's what happens, is we've got to be able to separate. And I knew that if I let it sit, the festering that would come would be these perceptions where they're going to mix my intent with my behavior. And I want to be very clear. I still believe in this, but the way I delivered that was not the right way. I could not have said it this way. So I dealt with my behavior, not my belief.
I love that distinction, because this is a competitive environment. And there are some leaders or coworkers out there, if we show certain elements of weakness, they will pounce on that and they'll make larger of it than it actually is. So the strategic move of really camping on the behavior, and it's okay to stick with your opinion, but apologize for the behavior. I heard one person even make a distinction. There's a difference in I'm sorry and will you forgive me for, or I apologize for. One is just, I'm trying to get rid of this. And the other is, I really want to mend this relationship.
I want to mend the relationship, and I want grace in mending that relationship.
Yeah.
So I want the grace of forgiveness. I want to mend it. I want the grace of forgiveness. So it's taking it that step further, as opposed to being very mechanical and just saying the words. I don't want to be mechanical. I don't want it to be a transaction. I want it to be an emotion, a relationship, and a mending.
And so we think about the intentional aspects of that. Are you wanting to put in that call to action of asking for grace or asking for forgiveness? Can you give me a hall pass on this one? Are you wanting to put some sort of call to action in that request?
Absolutely. The more we can put a call to action into place, the more they know where it comes from our heart. Right? We mean it. It's truthful. I'm not just doing a transaction. Anybody can say I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Anybody go, oh, I'm sorry for that. Now be quiet. I told you I'm sorry. Let it go. Right?
Yeah. I already told you I'm sorry. Yeah.
Right. Well, I told you I was sorry a time ago. So why are you still bringing this back up? But it's different when you're saying, look, I truly apologize. I humbly apologize for what has happened. And I really want your grace and forgiveness. I want your grace and understanding. I
Yeah.
want you, I really hope that you will be open to accepting my apology. That's very different than I'm sorry, go away.
It
So I
is.
think that what becomes very interesting is the dynamics between our vocabulary and our behaviors. And that's where those two come together, because you can say things in words that are transactions, check the box. I said what I was supposed to say. It's kind of like that corporate reading they used to make jokes about. Oh, you said it, that must have been a corporate call. Everybody's saying the same thing, right? It's a written
Yeah.
speech. Everybody got to repeat the same thing. So it's very different from being very mechanical and transaction.
I love that. Hey, Vicki, will you stick with me after the break? I want to get into even how do you go forward from there to make sure that relationship stays good. Will you stick with me right after this?
Absolutely.
All right, fantastic. All right, everybody, stick with us right after this, because there is that moment we've sought to mend the relationship, but the next moment there's still going to be distrust. Are they going to act this way again? How can we continue to make sure that trust is established going forward? Stick with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. And I love what Vicki just laid out, because it's not about defending the castle, not about defending our pride, but, like she said, sometimes you just got to say, contrary to what I hope everyone believes about me, I'm not actually perfect. Will you please forgive me? And really seeking to mend that relationship. Whew. But boy, that takes some courage to do it. It takes some courage and some real intentionality. I really love the strategic approach that she laid out to it. It's not so much that I'm caving to my opinion. I can still honor my opinion and my expertise and my know-how about that product, that situation, whatever that the actual was actually on the table, but really putting the relationship first and creating those seeing those as two separate entities. So I'm not apologizing for my opinion. I still stand behind my opinion, and I'm fine with discussing that more. It's just how I began discussing it. That wasn't me. There was other factors at play, whether things going on at home. Hey, the facts are we've all got stuff that's going on at home. Every single one of us. And sometimes things do just kind of play in. Sometimes we're not able to handle our emotions in the moment. No matter how good a person you think you are or how good at your job you actually think you are, we all get in those moments. So I love that input, the separation. Honestly, when I heard Vicki say that, honestly, I took a little bit of a deep breath. I kind of said, oh, you're right. If I don't mend that relationship, it's just going to fester. And it's just like that wound on your arm that you just keep poking at, and then salt gets poured in it, and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and then you can't control it at that point. So the sooner you can get to mending that relationship, whether you're in person, that's ideal. But even in the virtual environment, there's still control and communication lanes that you can walk through, because she even said the main group that she reached out to was through email. It wasn't even necessarily one-on-one conversations. It was digital. So you have that opportunity at your fingertips. You don't even have to, you don't have to have, whatever they say, egg on your face in front of every single person. You can put it in that individual email, and you can do it digitally and engage that conversation either way. It's the intentionality of making sure the behavior and the relationship is good, so that you can get back to the actual content that you believe in the first place. So let me bring Vicki back on. Vicki, I hope you enjoyed that summary, because I really did take a deep breath when I really did take a deep breath when you explained that. Vicki, I'm laughing because that was my son who ran behind me. And I was like, he has no idea this is a TV show. But anyway, Vicki, so just like him, there's moments we just can't control. We don't realize what's going on, but the relationship is absolutely what's most important. I like how you created that separation, and that does get through that moment. But am I wrong to think, or you tell me, there's going to be another meeting shortly after that? And I kind of feel like it's like you're on trial again. It's like there's going to be a little bit of a skeptical, hey, is she going to yell at me again? You know, you know, is she going to start doing this thing again on me? You know, and so there's this skepticism, because we want to avoid going for, even if we apologize, some people aren't even going to fully accept that apology until you put actual truth behind it. You put behaviors behind those words. They want to see, were those just words? Or is there reality? So take us from that point forward to mend your brand going forward. Do you try to just I guess the first step is us personally. Do we begin to do we push erase on ourselves so we're not having that memory? First, ourselves. How do we handle our own internal dialogue?
Okay. Well, let's talk about the internal dialogue first, because you were very vulnerable, you were authentic, and you came to the table. Now you have to understand within yourself. Everybody handles conflict differently. Everybody handles bad days differently, but you got to sit down and say, what will I do differently with my behavior when I have those bad days? How will I handle this next time so it doesn't repeat? It's kind of like, you know, when you make a mistake and something happens, did I learn anything from it? Can I change anything? Did I make any difference happen? So really looking inside to say, how can I do this differently? Now, for me in that situation, I knew at that moment that when I have bad days, I need to take a meditation break before I go into the next meeting. I really need time to just collect myself, to breathe, to not take in the anxiety and the challenges that I had from what had happened before I went into the meeting when I go into the next meeting. So first is dealing with you. Once you've done that, when you go into that next meeting, you are being watched. Don't think that you aren't. You are. And how you act and behave will let them know, were you really serious when you said you were sorry? Were you really serious when you said you were going to change your behavior? They're going to watch you. They're going to see what happens. They're going to see your response, and they're going to look. You make it through that next meeting showing that you have changed, especially in that meeting if you had opposing views.
Yeah.
Now they're seeing how you're going to respond with opposing views and your behaviors and what you're going to do. They're going to know how genuine you really were or not. So that next meeting is a very critical meeting when you're with those same individuals.
And I would think in that moment you want to choose your battles very very critically. You don't want to go toe to toe on anything in that next meeting, because they're almost expecting you to create another fight. So there may be a little acquiescing or maybe just giving a little of that territory, maybe on that belief, maybe just a little bit possibly, but you just got to, like you said, you need to be aware that that's what they are going to, you know. Vicki, my wife had a moment. My daughter was getting married, and she was trying on dresses. And it reminds me of this situation. She was trying on dresses, and you know, she didn't like this one, and she didn't like that one. And I said, so she put one on. I loved her dress, and I took a picture. I said, now fix your face. And so then she smiled real big, and all of a sudden the dress looked completely different, and her opinion of the dress was completely different. Sometimes we got to fix our face, Vicki.
Well, you know, your face is a replica of your feeling.
Yeah.
So if you are not, you know, we all have days when our moods are off, when things aren't exactly what we want, or something's going on internally. It could be I'm tired. I mean, it could be as simple as I'm tired, you know, but you have to, your face can reveal what's internally, number one. So that's why they say when you're in an environment where you're around happy people and things are going well and you're all excited, you can get pumped up. you can
Yeah.
feel better. You can feel like, oh, this is going to be a great day. I
Hmm.
can't have a bad day. This is good because I'm around so much positive energy and moving forward. So it is important that, when you're moving forward, that you're in touch with you and where you are, right? And as when we wake up every morning, we get up, we have a choice. Am I going to have a good day or am I going to have a bad day? And it starts where? Right here. What is my mindset? How am I feeling? How am I going to start my day to make sure I start it on the best possible outcome? Now, there are going to be trials and tribulations where that best possible outcome is not the greatest, but it's okay. It's not going to be the greatest, but it's okay. But we have to acknowledge that, right? And
Hmm.
once we decide what that's going to be, we have to make sure we're in environments that's going to bring the best out in us. And I think a lot of times when we're at work, even personally, we're around certain friends,
Hmm.
we don't recognize the impact they have on us if
Yeah.
we're not in an environment we can flourish in.
Yeah.
It's kind of like at work. If 80% of the time I'm trying to fix myself because you told me I'm not good at something, and
Hmm.
only 20% of the time is great, I'm going to always feel negative when I come in. So I need to make sure I'm working in an environment where I'm using 80% of my strengths, because none of us are perfect, and
Hmm.
only 20% of the opportunity to grow. So I feel good. So I can have good days. I can do good moments. People appreciate what I bring to the table. They understand my value that I'm
Hmm.
bringing forth in a sense.
Yeah.
So it's really important that you put yourself in the environment where you have peace, joy, happiness, and you can flourish, most of the time, because nothing's perfect, but most of the time. So that you're not in an environment every day where you go, oh God, I gotta go to work. Do I really have to go to this place today? Do I really have to go see these people today? I don't like my job. I don't like where I am. I don't like what I'm doing. That's where stress comes from. Stress comes because we're allowing ourselves to be in that environment of that negativity. So that becomes extremely important when you're starting out your days.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why I try to interview you every morning, every single morning. That's me that's actually calling you, Vicki. So I'm trying to start the day the right way. So, but yeah, I agree 100%. You have those moments where you meditate, listen to worship music, and just things just bring you back into who you really want to be. And
Mhm.
it's also the intentional action of, have you designed who you really want to be, so when you're not authentic to who you actually are
That's
in the
exactly.
first place. There's some people that are completely not aware. When they blow up, they're going to blow up again because they're not aware of who they actually want to be. Vicki, thank you so much for the time. I mean, I just feel like if Dr. Phil had a couch, I feel like I was just on it. And so thank you so much. I love it when we get to talk.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Ty. It's absolutely my pleasure.